Hello, today I'll be painting Star-Lord from the board game Marvel United. For the coat, I've mixed fur brown with pure red. Now the coat is meant to be red, but adding the brown dulls the red and gives the coat a leathery look. I didn't go a 1-to-1 ratio. I just added a little bit of brown to the red until I got a little bit duller result. I've mixed these colors on a wet palette and took a few coats to get the desired result. The brush that I'm using for the coat is a Rigger 0, and this allows me to cover more of the model more quickly. There's no real detail work on the coat. The only thing to avoid on it is the epaulette on his left shoulder. Anything else is pretty easy to do. You just stay within the lines. If you spill over a little bit onto the pants or to a skin surface, it's not really that big of a deal to clean up. I've painted the shirt in ash gray. He's got a t-shirt on. The card art illustrates it in a light gray. Ash gray was a pretty good one for that, but there's a lot of different grays that will work, or you could use a different color altogether for a shirt if you'd like. For the pants, I used leather brown. That's what the card art had as far as the pants were concerned. They were darker brown. If you want to make it a little darker than that, you can add a little black to that, or choose a different brown altogether, or go with a different color. Blue jeans might work too. For the hair, I combined the leather brown with yellow ochre. More yellow ochre than the brown, but close to a 1-to-1 mix. Later on, I will go over and lighten up the mixture a little bit by adding more of the yellow ochre and highlighting the tips of his hair there. In fact, I'm doing that a little bit now. And ultimately, I'll be using just the yellow ochre. All right, for the mask, start off by coating everything in gunmetal, everything except for the eyes. I also use gunmetal on the handles of the blasters. There's a clear distinction on the blasters where you should stop doing this. It's like segmented between handle and cannons or barrels, and the handle parts I did in gunmetal, and I did the other parts in combination of colors. Next, I paint the eyes in Evil Sunz Scarlet. It's a very nice bright red. If you lack that color though, then any bright red should do. You could even go with the undiluted red that I used for the jacket. Next, I highlight some of the surfaces, the raised surfaces in plate mail metal. I'll go over some of those and give them a bit more of a shiny effect. And after I did those raised surfaces, I mixed a little bit of the black with the gunmetal for the area by his mouth and the two cylinders that go off on either side of the chin, the center parts of those. You see I'm highlighting those in the plate mail on the edges, but the middle part I will cover up with the black and gunmetal mixture that I'm using on his face mask part, by where his mouth would be. So I'm touching up the hair a little bit, trying to add a little highlight to it. This is a not quite yellow ochre alone. This is a little bit of brown with it. And once that dries later on, I will add the yellow ochre to just the very tips. Gives it sort of a blondish brown appearance. Alright, so the barrels, I added a little bit of gunmetal to the original hair mixture, the original 1-to-1 yellow ochre leather brown. I added just enough of the gunmetal to give it a little bit of a metallic look, but not too much. In the card art, it doesn't look real metallic-y. And here are the final highlights to just the tips of the hair in strictly yellow ochre. The skin, I mix a little white with desert yellow. If you want to add further highlights to skin, it can be done by adding more white to the original mixture. There's not a lot of skin parts, just his neck and hands. If you prefer a flesh tone, there's plenty of different flesh ones as well. I just kind of like this as a little lightish tan. Now Star-Lord has that epaulette on his left shoulder, and I'm using this uniform gray to try to paint that. It's set apart enough that it really shouldn't have much of a problem. I didn't have much of a problem painting it without spillage. He's got those knee pads that are metallic, and he's got a metallic belt buckle. So I painted the belt itself in just black. And for the buckle and the knee pads, and ultimately he's got some metal on him. The feet, just the tops of the shoes or boots there, that was also done with gunmetal. Now he's got that leather satchel and the straps that attach to it. What I did with that is I just used the original hair mixture and just painted it in that color. So it differentiates itself from the hair because it's just the brown part as opposed to the lightened 2 or 3 times part. So there's the belt being painted in black. Trying to get that on the underside of the coat. If you do, just run your mixture over it once it dries. Now for the boots themselves, I use Necromancer Cloak, and again, this is basically just black with a bit of gray in it. Gives a bit of contrast to the matte black that was used on the belt. I'm painting around the metal plates that he has on the tops of the boots, just above the toe. And again, those I'll go back and paint in gunmetal. If you want them shinier, plate mail metal will work, or silver. Alright, so now it's time to paint the base. I start by using uniform gray on the ring of the base. And I also use it for the flat ground surfaces of the model as well. I'm going to be painting the rocks in electric blue, but they mostly get painted in gray first. Really, the only thing I'm trying to avoid here is the metal box in the back, and it's got some tubes and metal wires coming out of it. Everything else I'm painting over. All right, for those tubes, I'm using buff. It's essentially just a light tan. There's no card art to guide through the base, so a lot of colors will work for this. Now for the actual metal box itself, I used strictly weapon bronze. You could also use a silvery metal look as well with a gunmetal or anything else. So the rocks are getting the electric blue on the ground. And if I'm hitting some of the gray, that's not a problem either. Blue dust or whatever. So I use this Warplock brown or Warplock bronze on these metal pipes or electrical conduits that are coming out of this metal box here. There's a couple on the sides. There's also one in between the tubings. All right, finally I add a few brighter highlights to the rocks, and I use this crystal blue. It's a little brighter than the other blue, And you know, I try to just hit a few of the rocks or most of the rocks a little bit. All right, here you have a completed Star-Lord. And this model is from the Guardians of the Galaxy remix box. And then we have a matte, we need a matte spray to protect him. And here he is with that matte spray. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.